Good morning, everyone. I just want to go ahead and confirm that you guys can hear my voice and see my screen here before it gets started. There's a little chat section as well as a question section. If you want to just give me a thumbs up or yes, I can hear you, that'd be great. Wonderful. Thank you, Rob. Peter, Paul, thank you as well. Min as well. Very good. All right. Good to go. So, for anybody that doesn't know me, I'm just going to go and quickly introduce myself. My name is Mike. I'll be your instructor here today. I've been with the Eleco team for close to 7 years now, and instructor in general for close to 10 years. And I've been doing accessibility expert for for 7 years as well with the Eleco team. And today we are going to talk and concentrate on WCAG 2.1 versus WCAG 2.0. I just noticed that my boss did the little error in our little slide here. So WCAG 2.0 versus WCAG 2.1 and what's new in the latest version. Now, of course, at any point in time, if you have a comment, question, or anything like that, ask away in the chat. You have the little question section that you can ask questions at any point in time, and I will be happy to comment it and help you out. I'm also going to leave about 15 minutes at the end here for anybody that wants to ask any questions. I'll stick around and answer any questions you guys might have regarding anything when it comes to accessibility. So I'd be happy to help you guys out. So let's get started here. The first thing I kind of want to talk about here is just to make sure that everybody understands that accessibility is for everybody, right? It's making content available for everyone in a barrier-free environment. So that means if I'm visually impaired, that I'm blind, I'm using a screen reader like JAWS, NVDA, or VoiceOver. By the way, fun little fact about screen readers. In the fall of 2019, so recently, NVDA has surpassed JAWS as the primary screen reader on the market. So that's a significant change. Now it's passed it by 0.5%, so it's very, very small margins, but still significant news since JAWS has been the leader, if you will, for well over a decade. So that being said, there's also a screen reader on the Mac called VoiceOver. And again, it's software that will read the content to the visually impaired users so that they are aware of what is on the screen. So that's one of the things you need to worry about, but it's definitely not the only thing we need to worry about. Sometimes people overemphasize and concentrate on the visually impaired and then forget the rest. But accessibility is for everyone. It's a human right here in Canada, and everyone benefits from an accessible environment. So it's important that we make content accessible to who? Everyone. So again, there is, of course, different deficiency to keep in mind. There's different legislation as well. And one of the things I do want to talk about with the legislations is that as of today, April 9th, I believe, right? Starting to get all blurry on the days. There is no legislation or law saying we need to meet 2.1 as of today. Is that going to change? Yes. At one point, they're going to say, okay, we don't need to meet 2.0 anymore. We need to meet 2.1. But I just want to make it clear that, again, the Accessibility for Ontario with Disability Act, AODA, is still mentioning 2.0. And the Treasury Board has talked about 2.1, but has not reinforced it yet as of today. So again, it's always nice to be ahead of the curve, though, because it's just a matter of time. Now, when it comes to the guideline itself, again, it can be overwhelming, and it is obviously developed by the W3C, which are responsible for creating web standards. It is not a Canadian guideline. It is an international guideline that is used throughout the whole world. So it is important to understand that this is not just a Canadian thing, okay? The Australian government are using it, for example. University in the United States are using it. European countries are using it. It is an international guideline. And it is, of course, one that typically when set doesn't change. So WCAG 2.0 came out in 2008 and did not change since. And 2.1 came out in summer of 2018 and has not changed since as well. Now, it is, again, set in stone, so you don't have to really worry about it changing too much or changing at all. Now, if you actually want to go and read it, obviously it is available online and can be kind of overwhelming to read. Okay? Scrolling, look at my watch, still scrolling. So it is a very lengthy document. And, if you ever want to potentially have a hard time falling asleep, you can always come here and read this, and I should help you. All kidding aside, it is obviously where you can find the answers. But today we're going to try to make it easier for you guys to understand the new criteria in WCAG 2.1. Now, the old criteria at 2.0 are still present. It's not like they've restarted from scratch. So all the 2.0 criteria are present. We've just added more. And most of the new criteria are to accommodate what's inside your pockets right now, charging on your desk. Maybe not charging on your desk. It's pretty early in the morning. Who knows? Maybe you forgot to charge your phone last night. So I am talking about mobile devices. 2.1 was really introduced to accommodate mobile devices. Now there's a few other criteria that have nothing to do with mobile phones, but most of the new criteria, as you're going to see, are things you should already be doing just because of good web design, as well as things that will make a user experience on a mobile device a better one. And of course, accessibility is for everyone, and that does include you on a bus, you walking on the sidewalk, you just surfing on the couch using your mobile device. So obviously there is 3 different levels of criteria, just like before, so that has not changed. There's still level A criteria, which is the bare minimum that you can say, hey, we are accessible. However, nobody actually just meets A criteria. We typically want to meet AA compliancy, meaning all the A criteria and AA criteria are being met. Now, the AAA criteria shouldn't be ignored, but it is something that obviously could be a little bit more difficult to accommodate for. There's some AAA criteria that are really easy to meet. For example, if you have a hyperlink on your page, you know where the link is going by reading the link alone. So that would be an actual AAA criteria. And another one that's very popular that people think is actually a AA would be the abbreviation. Whenever you have an abbreviation, let's say like CRTC, you use the title attribute and abbreviation tag to allow the users to understand that CRTC stands for Canadian Radio Television Telecommunication Commission. So those are 2 AAA criteria. Now, there are some AAA criteria that are a lot more difficult to accommodate for. For example, for video, if you want to be AAA, you'd have to actually have somebody doing sign language at the bottom right or bottom left of the video to so you'd have to hire an interpreter and then at that point film the interpreter and then put him on the video as well. So that's a lot more work. So again, 3 different levels of compliancy here. Okay. Now, you might not be responsible for every single criteria, so make your list and go from there. But we're actually now ready to get started here with the new criteria in 2.1. Okay, so that was my little introduction spiel. Again, at any point in time, if you have a comment, a question, ask away in the question, and I'll be happy to accommodate and help you out. So let's get started. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Here we go. And the first new criteria of the WCAG 2.1 guideline is orientation, which is criteria 134. It is a AA compliancy, so that means we will need to meet this criteria. And pretty much the gist of it is you cannot force a user to use their mobile phones in landscape or portrait. The user has the ability to choose between the 2. Now, as a developer, what do you have to do? Nothing. Just don't get in the way. It's actually more work to block that, to restrict the user to use their phone in portrait or landscape. So again, that's a pretty easy one to meet. Don't force the user to use their phone in portrait or landscape. They can use it whichever orientation they want. Pretty simple. The next one is a little bit more complicated. Input purpose, the identify input purpose, allows users to use autocomplete. Now, the easiest way for me to explain this to you is to show you an example of autocomplete. So input fields that collect certain types of user information have appropriate autocomplete attributes defined. And this will allow you, if I were to go on our website, for example, for a second, alico.ca, and I'm just going to go to our Q&A page, which is where you can ask questions at any point in time. And here we have first name, last name, organization, title, and question. And some of these are common fields that I've already filled out somewhere else on a different website. So I want to be able to use autofill feature like so, and it automatically fills out some of the information. Now, if there was phone number, it would fill out the phone number. If there's address, it would fill out the address, and so on and so on and so on. And the way it's able to do this is because the developer behind the scenes used common naming convention to name these boxes so that the autofill feature works correctly. Now, this is, again, another one that really makes it more accessible for everyone. I can't stand a website where it doesn't allow me to autofill. So again, a good naming convention when naming these boxes will allow the autofill to work. And that is identify input purpose. So Cynthia, it's up to you. It's a very good question. Cynthia is asking, are there privacy issues with the autofill? You're letting the user pick, Cynthia, if they do want to use that autofill or not. So in browser options, when a user actually fills out these forms, the browser will ask the user, do you want us to keep this information for later? Or you can actually go in your settings in your browser and change that. So Cynthia, that would be on the browser end, and the browser user would decide if they don't want to allow these things. So there is definitely something like if it's a public computer, you probably don't want your information sticking out on a public computer. So you probably don't want the autofill then. So there is something to keep in mind, but it doesn't really have to do with the accessibility side of things. It's more the browser side of things, where the browser settings are set and so on. Great question. All right. Wow. Getting this part of the question here. Here it is. Thanks. It sounds like the browser that controls. How do we know the labels in the browser will recognize? So the easiest way to actually know is to test it out just to see. Okay, that's the easiest way to know. However, if you use common naming convention, so for example, for first name, you actually use the name first name inside with an underscore or camel case. Same thing with the last name, same thing with email. If you just use the actual name that it is, it's pretty easy. And the browser will recognize. Now, if I actually go take a look at my naming convention here, I actually call it first underscore name, okay? And that will make it recognize last underscore name as well. And there's even an attribute called autocomplete where you can actually add, so maybe you want to call it one thing here, but the autocomplete option attribute, you won't see it here in this one, but the attribute autocomplete, you would put first underscore name, and then at that point it would recognize it. So there is quite a few different naming convention that it will recognize as well. And here's the kicker, it learns as it goes, okay? So if one website uses organization like this, for example, as the name for that user, and then that user goes to another website and they also use the name organization. at that point, that autofill will be available to them because it's the same name as another field they filled out on a different website that had the same name. So it is going to learn with time as the user fills out more and more forms, it's going to be more and more successful. So very good. All right. Now the first AAA criteria, of course, AAA criteria are more difficult to potentially accommodate for, and they will not be forced upon us, okay? And the first one is identify purpose. And every website has these different sections. And this is actually something that most people are doing nowadays in 2020. So you're actually probably meeting this criteria. And it's saying you use HTML5 regions, and honestly, you really shouldn't be using the ARIA landmarks, as HTML5 will do the job. So what am I talking about here? Well, if you take a look at most websites, and we can go on the home page here for a second. If you take a look at most websites, we have different sections of the website here. Let's get rid of that depressing thing. And the first thing at the top here is our header. Then we have our navigation. Then we have our main content. And at the bottom, we have a footer. I'd say most websites are built exactly like that. Well, we are tagging those sections with HTML5 elements to let the user know. So if I go behind the scenes here without scaring too many people here, and I go find the header, in this case, right over here. This is the header part of the website. This is where the header starts. And the screen reader will actually announce this to the end user. Now, if I go down, we then have the nav. And once again, the nav will be announced to the screen reader user. And then we have the main. The main, oh, I actually don't have the main on this one, I believe. Let's go take a look. Yeah, the main doesn't exist on this one. I should add it, however. And then we have the footer. And do a better search here. There we go. And there's the footer. Pretty small and simple, but there's the footer nonetheless. Okay. So those are HTML5 sectional tags, and that is what identify purpose is. We are using HTML5 region tags to allow the screen readers to identify different sections of the website. And again, it's a common practice. So even though it's a AAA, you could actually say, hey, we meet this AAA criteria. Great. And again, there's no need now to use ARIA landmarks, as HTML5 is identified by most third-party technology like screen readers. All right, reflow is something, if you're not doing right now, you are failing dramatically in the UX side of things, the user experience side of things. Basically, it means you are building mobile-friendly websites, okay, responsive websites. Your website in 2020 should not have any horizontal scrolling. It should just be vertical scrolling. There's exceptions to that rule. Tables would be an exception to that rule, as well as carousels and sliders would be an exception to that rule. But means that if I do shrink my screen to the smallest screen possible, everything is available vertically. Nothing has to be scrolled horizontally, with the exception of tables, okay, and carousels like this. So again, that really just means you're building a responsive website, okay, or adaptive design website. So if you're not doing this already, you're behind the curve by quite a bit, right? What we don't want is, if we go to our beautiful Lucidified accessory website, still as ugly as the last time I went there. So this one here, you can see here, I have to horizontally scroll to view the content. That would fail this criteria. Also would fail the Google mobile friendly test, which means your SEO will actually be impacted and you will be penalized because you are not meeting the requirements by Google to be a mobile-friendly website. So yeah, basically requires responsive design. That is reflow. AA criteria. I'm actually surprised that's not an A criteria. Next up is non-text contrast, and this one is one that will be probably one of the biggest ones to go and fix. So it means that the color contrast 3:1 ratio, which means big font. Remember the big font color contrast in 2.0? Well, now the big font color contrast in 2.1 also needs to be applied to focus states, hover states, active states, so other elements on the page that have the ability to get focus or control. Now, the easiest way, again, to show you, I should say, what this means is on Canon.ca, they are actually failing this criteria right now. And yes, they are aware of it, so it's not a big deal, but it is a good example. Oh, they got rid of that blue line. I can't use it as an example anymore. No. When did they do that? Yep, completely gone. Well, that's too bad. That blue bar is gone. Okay, so I'm gonna explain it. It's not gonna fail, but I can explain it, so that's good. In this case, it's that blue glow that you see around here. Okay, that blue glow needs to have high contrast between that blue glow and the white. That blue glow and the white. That, in this case, I'm inside the cursor blinking here. That blue glow and the white, and so on and so on. So in this case, hey, we have a background that's yellow and not blue. So does it meet the 3:1 ratio here between this blue glow and the yellow background here? Is it high enough contrast that people will be able to tell where they are when they're tabbing through the website? And they were actually failing on the next tab. They had this blue bar here for a while, for a long time actually, that would not actually have high enough contrast between that blue glow and yeah. So again, let's see here if, yeah, we don't have it here. Maybe in this case, that blue glow could be an example. Yeah, use it on the outside, not the inside. So, but we could actually do a better effort. It might actually fail here for that focus here. So that would be an example of that new criteria. Okay, so non-text contrast, the hover state, the focus state, has high contrast, 3:1 ratio. And of course, you could always use a website like snook.ca to test out to see if the color contrast is high enough. You would put the foreground color, would be that blue glow, for example. Okay, and then you would put the background, the foreground color, then the background color, and at that point, it would tell you if it is AA compliant for 3:1 ratio, which is this one right here, the 18 points. This is the one that needs to pass. And the reason I like Snook is the ability to play around with all the different colors here. And right now it's 1.9 ratio, so it's still not even close. 2.4 ratio, 2.8, we're almost getting there. And I want to get close, color contrast, there it is. It is AA compliant for font that's bigger than 18 points, which is 24 pixels. And yes, it is meeting it. So again, that is non-text contrast. Now applies for other elements, not just text. Okay, any important graphical information, visible focus identifiers, and other interactive controls. Do you mean the blue alert box? No, I didn't, Rob. I didn't mean the blue alert box. They had a blue border, just a blue line across, and it's gone. All right, next up is text spacing. So in this case, requires enough space around the text that the spacing can be spread out a little bit, avoiding pixel high definition for element that contains text. I don't want to get too technical on this one, okay, but it means that there's enough breathing room between font size. So if I go back to Kina.ca again here, you can see that these two lines are not even close to each other. And if I were to zoom in and zoom out, they are not overlapping each other. So you can't, this line doesn't go over this line doesn't go over this line. Nothing's starting to overlap on top of each other when I'm zooming in, and zooming in all the way to 400% to be a fact. Now, this is actually not going to be an issue for 99.9% of you, because we don't build websites with pixels sizing anymore. We actually use what we call EMs in the CSS. If you don't understand what that means, it's just a new measurement to create font size, to adjust font size. And it just behaves a lot more predictably than pixels would. And in the CSS side of things, that's what we use to define font size in 2020. And this is what is happening in this framework, the Web 4 framework. It's also using EMs, which really just means that text will not overlap each other, will not spread out on top of each other whenever you zoom in. So if you want to just test for this, just zoom in to 400%, see if the text starts to overlap each other. It shouldn't happen, however. Also, the breathing room, the extra breathing room does allow the user to read in a more comfortable environment. It's easier to actually read the content as well. So it's a good user experience all around. It's a better user experience all around, I should say. Min is saying, I work more in print design. Is there too much or too little kerning? Too much or too little kerning? I'd have to double check. For print, like how far apart the letters are, right? If the letters touch each other or are too far apart. So on the print side of things, there's, again, typically you don't really use the guideline itself, but hey, if you want to use some of the criteria, it's good for you. When it comes to the digital side of things, the guideline for the web content doesn't talk about kerning. It is something that I would keep in mind, I guess, but no mention of it. Content on hover is up next. Requires hover effects like custom tooltips, etc., not to obscure the trigger that activated them. Now, the easiest way for me to explain this one is, again, just by showing it to you. So we are going to go on my whiteboard here, and we're going to go find our little example right over here. We have 3 different tooltips, 3 different ways to actually display more information here. If I click on this, it displays it. I click elsewhere, it goes away. Okay. If I click on the next one, it appears. If I click on it again, it disappears. But if I click anywhere outside, it doesn't. And one last one, if I click on this, it appears. If I click on it again, it disappears. And they all look accessible, right? I can actually do it by the keyboard. I press here, I just have to focus it. Whoop, went too far here. I just have to focus it by the keyboard. So I hit tab, it just appears. I hit tab again, it goes to the next one, and I need to click to activate it. Okay, no problem. Click to activate it. Click to activate it again. Okay, good, no problem. Click to activate it, click to activate it. They all seem correct, but actually only the last one is fully accessible. The first one is failing the screen reader. The screen reader actually never gets access to the information on the right side. So that's a fail. And the second one seems to be fine, but the second one is failing the new criteria here, content on hover or focus, which is 1, 4, 13. It's failing this one right here. If I would make the screen small, and I'm a mobile user now, right? On a mobile, I don't have a keyboard, so I'm not tabbing through everything. I am clicking with my mouse, well, more specifically, my finger. And if I click to toggle the popover, you can see that I can never close this popover. If I click anywhere else, it doesn't close it, okay? It doesn't actually work. So the user would have to refresh the page to be able to get rid of the tooltip they just displayed. So this is a perfect example of a fail for that new criteria. On a desktop, it's fine. Everything looks fine on desktop, but when I go to a mobile, nope, can't get rid of that tooltip once I've opened it. So it pretty much requires you to be able to open or close any elements that are interactive, depending, no matter what screen size you are, without having to refresh them, without having to refresh the browser. Next up is character key shortcuts. And this is, in my opinion, mind-boggling that we need a criteria for this. This means people were doing this wrong, or someone out there was doing it wrong. But it really just means that you cannot use the letters A to Z and the number 1 to 0. If you look at your keyboard, 1 to 0 is 1 is the last, and 0 is then all the other numbers in between. You cannot use those characters for shortcut keys on your website, because guess what? The person might actually want to write something. So you're not using printable keys, okay, to create shortcuts for your website, right? Hey, when you go to my website and you press M, it goes to the menu. Well, what if I want to actually write my name, Mike? I'm trying to put Mike, but it goes to the menu instead because I can't put Mike. Wow, is this common sense? Like, the fact, again, that this is a criteria is boggling to me, but it is. It is a criteria, okay? If you want to create shortcut keys, add non-printable keys like Control, Shift, Option as a other key that the user needs to click on to then do those shortcut keys. So I'm hoping you guys never have to actually fail this, because what are you doing? Next one is animation from interaction. It is our AAA criteria that, to me, I'll be honest with you, I do like a little bit of CSS animation and maybe a little bit of parallax. There is such a thing as too much parallax, in my opinion. But if you had a parallax website, if you had CSS animation, there would be a mechanism in place to turn it off. So the user would be allowed to turn it off or not have any CSS animation at all. So what is CSS animation? Well, again, I can go to our website and kind of show you a little example in our client's page here. And you'll notice a little bit when the page loads, but it's more obvious right over here, 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 here. And you can see the box move in. So on this page, I would have to have some sort of mechanism in place for the user to be able to turn that CSS animation off. Or, once again, not have any. All right, questions so far? Good stuff. Next is pointer gestures. Requires the author to ensure the user can perform touch functions with assistive technologies with one single finger. So that's the big one here. This is a mobile criteria. You are not forcing the user to use multiple fingers to do actions on the screen. So things like pinching, swiping, dragging across the screen. If you are asking the user to do this, there needs to be an alternate method to do the same thing. So the best example of this would be Google Maps or Apple Maps is currently failing this if you go visit the website online. And the reason is the only way for me to zoom in and zoom out with my mobile device is to pinch in with 2 fingers or pinch out with 2 fingers. And I'm just opening this up and minimizing this for a second. And moving this up right over here for just 1 second. There we go. So this is my mobile phone right here. And if I zoom in and zoom out, I'm using 2 fingers to pinch in. I guess I should go far away, eh? Pinch in and pinch out here to zoom in and zoom out. So at that point, that's the only way I can zoom in and zoom out. I can actually double click to zoom in, but there's no triple click to zoom out. The easy solution here is don't remove that ability, because most people are comfortable with the zoom in and zoom out, right? Don't remove that. But what you could do is have a little icon with a little plus and a little icon with a little minus that allows your user to zoom in and zoom out with a plus and minus. And again, that would be an example of this criteria, okay? So if I bring it back up here, I can close this, we're good. Bring this back up. That is pointer gestures, 251, it is an A criteria. All right, pointer cancellation, a little bit more technical again, okay? Don't use on mouse down when you're doing your JavaScript functions. If you are not aware, every link on a website by default is actually on blur or on mouse up, if you will. What do I mean by that? Well, if I click on a link and I'm like, oh no, I actually didn't want to do that. If I move my mouse off of it and let go, it cancels that action. And that's something that I'm surprised how little amount of people actually know this. So if you do, kudos to you. If I click on a link, oh no, I don't want to go there. Click else, drag off of it and then let go, it doesn't activate the link. But if I just click and let go, you can see because I'm letting go when I'm still on top of that link, it goes to that page. That is how links work in the HTML world. And that's how you need to make all your elements work as well. If you have buttons, for example, you need to make sure that your buttons are not activated on click down, on mouse down, but on mouse up. When you're letting go, you're still on that button. And this allows for mobile users to click on the wrong link and like, oh no, I didn't want to click on that. Move their finger off of the link or off of the button, then let go, and that will cancel that action. So honestly, if you do any JavaScript, you don't really need to worry about this. But if you do JavaScript, you cannot use the on mouse down function. And if you want to test for this, if you're somebody that's testing for accessibility, just click on the links. Honestly, I wouldn't click on every link. That'd be very tedious. I would just go in the code and look for on mouse down in the code with Control Find and see if there's any on mouse down. If there's any on mouse down, I know that it's failing. So what we need to do instead is use on blur or on mouse up or on click. Those would all work correctly. The one that does not work correctly is this one. So again, it is a new criteria, one that probably you won't have to fail too much, if at all. Next, label in name. This is probably a more complicated one to explain, but whatever the user visually sees is what the screen reader should say as well. So it doesn't need to be exactly the same, but it needs to be very similar, okay? Again, it's kind of common sense in my opinion here, but if an interface component like a link, a button, presents text or image of text, which obviously is something you should avoid at all costs, the accessible name, what the screen reader hears in the label, in the alternative text, in the label for the component must include the visible text. So if you have a button that says click me and it's actually an image with the word click me, the alt text needs to say click me. Common sense, yes, And you know what? It's something you should avoid at all costs because you shouldn't really have text on an image. If it's not clear, if you have a follow-up question on this one, let me know. All right. Motion actuation. Now, this is another easy one to meet, and one I'm not really worried that most of you will fail. Don't force the user to shake their phones. You're like, Mike, why would I force a user to shake their phone? Well, if you didn't know, some applications on your phone right now have an option to shake the phone to undo. That's how my mail client works. If I go to my mail client and I delete an email, I'm like, no, I actually didn't want to delete that. I shake my phone and it undoes the last thing I did. That's actually a feature that you cannot force the user to use. Now you can have it, but you can't force it upon the user. So that means if you are allowing the shaking of the phone, you have another mechanism in place to do the same thing, like an undo button, for example. You cannot force the user to tilt their phone. You cannot force the user to use their cameras on their phone either. So again, those are all things to keep in mind. You're saying, but Mike, I want them to take a picture of themselves for, you know, profile settings and things like that. Well, you're allowing the user to either take a picture or upload a picture. So the upload picture needs to also be present here. Okay. So again, you can't ask the user to kind of like put their face and wave it in front of the camera and things like that. So anything movement-wise with the phone, you cannot force, if you will. I'm not really worried that any of you would fail this one. It's not something very, very common. All right, this is a AAA criteria. Unfortunately, it is a AAA criteria. I kind of wish it was a AA criteria because how many of you, and I'm sure every single one of you have, but how many of you have went on a mobile website, clicked on a link, and clicked on the wrong link because it's too close to another link, and your finger, you know, is about 44 pixels by 44 pixels of width on average. Hey, weird. That's the clickable target size that is being mentioned here. So my point is, we've all done it. Eh? We went on a website and on a mobile website, and the links were so close to each other that we clicked the wrong link. So this target size is saying that any element on the screen that is interactive, not just links, buttons, sliders, checkbox, radio buttons, any element that is interactive has the minimum size of 44 pixels by 44 pixels. It is a AAA criteria, but in my opinion, it would be one that would be great for you to meet. That means there's no two interactive elements that are smaller than 44 pixels of size. So every element on my web page has at least a clickable area of 44 pixels by 44 pixels. And if you want to know what that is, I'm going to go placeholder here, and I'm going to go 44. And this is about the size of a 44 by 44 pixels. So again, nothing has a smaller clickable area than this. I kind of wish this was an A criteria or AA criteria because it does make a significant better user experience on mobile device. Good? Concurrent input mechanism. One again that I'm shocked that it's a criteria. Okay. However, it is a criteria. It's a AAA criteria. I'm shocked that it's a AAA criteria as well. But the gist of it is you cannot force a user to use the onboard keyboard, like the digital keyboard that shows up on our phones, versus an actual physical Bluetooth or wired keyboard. And vice versa. You cannot force a user to use a wired or Bluetooth keyboard rather than the onboard keyboard, digital keyboard. So again, what do you have to do as a developer? The answer is nothing. You have to do nothing. Don't get in the way. All you have to do is not get in the way, and you'll meet this criteria. Pretty easy, eh? Congratulations, you're meeting a AAA criteria. Don't get in the way. Do not restrict the user to use a Bluetooth keyboard if they want to use the onboard keyboard that is going to be digital on their screen, or vice versa. Another one that's kind of crazy that needs to be said, but hey, it's being said. And the last one of the day is status message. Once again, I prefer showing you instead of explaining to you. It is easier for you guys to click on this one if I just show you a fail and then a pass. So back to our whiteboard, onto Mike's whiteboard over here, and I'm going to scroll a little bit lower, and we're going to ignore the first name here. This is for a different exercise and a different course. What I really want you to concentrate on is the email here. Okay, so the email right over here. I'm going to refresh the screen here because I just realized I modified this. And I'm going to go and put my cursor in here. I'm going to turn on VoiceOver.
VoiceOver, heading level 5. Mike's whiteboard. Email, edit text with autofill menu, submit, button.
All right. So I want you to keep an eye on the email required. Okay, keep an eye on the email required. Don't worry about anything else. Just keep an eye on that right over here. And I'm going to press enter in 3, 2, 1. Did anything happen? Any of you notice anything new that just happened? So the please error message appeared above label. Rob is correct, right? Please enter your email address. Now, Rob, the way you know that is because you visually saw that appear. But the problem here is I did not hear it for a screen reader user. And this is a very, very common practice. I do a lot of audits, and one of the most popular audit failures is this exact example. You visually see the error message appear, but somebody that's visually impaired does not hear it. At that point, they are not aware of it, and they just keep pressing enter because they don't know what's going on. Nothing is actually being said. Absolutely nothing is being said, and that's a fail. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this, and I'm going to fix this.
Sublime text.
I'm just going to mute this for a second here.
Muting.
And I'm going to go ahead and use ARIA live equals polite to make this work. You know what? I'm going to actually show it to you guys. I'm going to move it up here, and here it is. Okay, so I added this right here. Okay, ARIA live polite. On the error message, you can see the errors right here, and it's hidden by default. And when I make it appear in part of the DOM, document object model, at that point, it will read this out loud. So I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to go back in my screen with my exercise, refresh the page, go back to the way it was. I'm going to scroll back down here and unmute my computer.
Board. Chrome has new window. Visited, link, form, ARIA, link, caption, email, submit, button.
And once again, I'm going to do the same exercise here. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to press enter. Oh, did I not refresh? Oh,
VoiceOver off.
Might have not uploaded. Okay, it's on.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Mike's whiteboard. Heading level 5. My email, submit, button. Please enter your email address.
Helps if you refresh the page, right? So there it is. Okay, you actually heard, please enter your email address. And now the user is aware that something went wrong.
Submit. VoiceOver off.
Okay. So there it is. Those are the new criterias in WCAG 2.1. Now, when I do tests for websites for 2.1, which I've only had to do a few handful of times because most people are still testing for 2.0, I typically add a step to my 5-step process to reliably test websites for accessibility. So of course, I have my 5-step process that I use all the time, but if I need to test for 2.1, there's a 6th criteria or 6th step, if you will. And this is to make sure that the website is mobile friendly. So it passes the mobile aspect of the 2.1 criteria. And you would do this with a mobile phone most of the time, if possible. So that's the gist for today. Any of you have any comments, questions? I'm going to stick around in case you guys have any questions or anything like that. I want to thank you for joining us here today. Thank you, Rob. Really appreciate it. And stick around in case you have any comments or questions. I know some of you are sticking out your hands. Is it because you want me to enable your microphone? So for anybody that raised their hands, I unmute you. But you are unmuted, FYI.
Hello?
Yes, Cynthia.
Hi. Yes, while you were showing us your lovely whiteboard, I couldn't help notice that you had an example of big caption versus caption. Could you explain that and what the accessibility risk is with big versus big caption?
Yeah, so that's a great question here. So good eye, by the way. I think I scrolled pretty quickly on that one too. So again, the caption here in this case versus the caption, this is a typical caption here. Even though it's at the bottom, okay, that's just a style. You will have the ability to move around that caption with CSS. That's not part of the exercise. The point here is that what you will actually hear between the two. We have a fig caption and a fig figure with a fig caption and a table caption. If I turn on VoiceOver and go to those two tables, you will notice that this caption will not be announced by the screen reader automatically versus this caption will. So I'm just going to go above VoiceOver on.
VoiceOver.
And I'm going to jump to the table using the shortcut key
Mike's what?
to get to the table, which is Command Option
Visit.
Control T.
Chrome has table 0 columns, 3 rows.
Okay. So you just hear that the table has 0 columns, which is an error right now. That's a Google thing. But you don't hear the caption. If I go to the next one.
Example of caption. Table 0 columns, 4 rows. VoiceOver off.
The caption does get announced here. So behind the scenes, okay, one is done with a caption. Here it is. Okay. So here we have a figure with a fig caption versus here we have a table with a caption. You definitely want to always use a table with a caption instead of a figure with a caption when it comes for tables. So great question, Cynthia.
A follow-up question, in which of the Aliquo regular training would you cover the most guidance for comparative tables for accessibility when you're building multi-column tables?
The one we talk about it the most would be the, if I just bring it up, wow, training, course listing. Oh, I could have clicked on accessibility there, but hey.
We're in the era of annual reports, and there's lots of tables in annual reports.
So it would be the WCAG techniques for applications and forms right over here.
Oh, it would be in forms. Okay.
Well, it would be applications and forms. We go in more detail here. Okay, I know it's because it's actually 2-part, right? This course is actually this techniques for web content and more advanced So more advanced things like applications and forms.
Is this being offered virtually, or are we in the suspension period with Liquid?
It is definitely offered as of right now as well, yes. So yes, you can do this online like we're kind of doing today.
Okay. And second question about infographics, which are becoming popular in the social media environment and are making their way into the web world. Everyone seems to use long descriptions for those. Is there any quick guidance or advice on that, and what follow-up course would we take for the best techniques for that?
It would be the same one as I just mentioned.
Oh,
And
okay.
you could use long descriptions or alternative method to digest the same information. So there's a few different techniques you can use there, and we do talk about it in that course.
Which is coming up on April 27th. Okay.
That is correct.
Will you
Very
be
good.
teaching that?
Yes, it will be. Yes.
Thank you.
Very good.
I had
Thank
a question.
Go
Hello?
ahead.
Yeah, I had a question from right back at the beginning. You mentioned with video, to be accessible, it had to have an ASL down in the corner.
That would be AAA. AAA.
Does it count if you have a video and then a separate ASL video? Or do they have to be combined?
As long as it's available to the end user, yeah, you would meet the AAA either way. Yeah, it would
Okay.
count. Yep. Very good.
Follow-up question on that. ASL video creation translators are out there. Are there any guidance in terms of how you would code or present it? We've been considering YouTube, but of course there are barriers with the video player with some screen readers and tools. For example, the YouTube auto restart, and people can't take that off. So we've had some feedback from people of the community saying that they're frustrated with Netflix and YouTube because some of the auto features auto advance. So any suggestions on that?
That's funny because the end user has the ability to control that. The end user actually goes in YouTube in their profile settings and turn that off. It's a
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't need to worry about that. Okay.
Yeah, it's not on our end. It's technically on the user's end. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so any user complaining about that, they just didn't know about that.
That's right. You could just guide them into telling them that in their profiles they have the ability to turn that off. As a developer, you have no control over that. Great questions, by the way. All right, we have a few as well. Peter, will the PDF you use be available to download, Peter? I will let you know. Welcome, by the way. It is part of our WCAG 2.0 class. So this is a free online session. I'd have to talk to my boss to let you, and maybe keep an eye out for an email from us to see if I can share that with you guys today. But Peter, here's a little teaser for you, okay? Just because again, I'd like for you guys to be happy. If you go on the WebM checklist website, and WebM, of course, is a great website. Well, I'm going to put it in the chat here. You see a link appear in the chat. This is where you can actually find the 2.1 criteria that are easy to digest. Okay, now I rephrased some of these, but again, most of them, again, where the starting point was, they're in green. The white ones are 2.0 criteria, and the 2.1 criteria are the green ones, and you can see here, WCAG 2.1 AA compliancy here, and how to meet that. So it is available online, Peter. Okay. Here's the next one. Section, next section, and so on and so on. All right. Any other comments, questions? Well, I really want to thank you guys. I always like a good interactive group. I really appreciate the questions. Okay, makes my day a lot more enjoyable, so really appreciate it. Don't forget that you can always go on our website and ask us questions. So you always have the ability to go to the Q&A page, even if you haven't taken a course related to that, and ask us questions here. So don't be shy. We're here to help. And we obviously offer a lot of different courses online that you can go and take a look at. All our courses that we are delivering in person are available online as well. So there's no exception. There's no courses that we offer that you would not be able to take just from home. So thank you so much for joining us. That's where we're going to wrap it for today. If comments or questions are still coming in, stick around. If not, you guys have a wonderful, oh, I just got another one. I apologize. This webinar question doesn't always let me know. Final question of the day, Elko offers wet classes. Do you have any indication coming from the government as of what is up with Wet 5? Just rumbling that it's not going to be using Bootstrap, which I'm kind of disappointed about. They are not going to be using Bootstrap for Wet 5. And it's been in development for a while, but it's from the last thing I heard, and again, I don't work in the government, Cynthia, so take that with a grain of salt. The last thing I heard is it's not coming out anytime soon. But who knows, right? The web world kind of moves around quite a bit. Paul, very appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. Go
I
ahead.
have one more question. One more
Captain?
question? Yeah. The last course I took with you guys, you mentioned that the accessibility world we're discussing the option of allowing the heading levels to skip. And I wondered if you had heard anything new on that, like to go from an H2 to an H4.
Who said they are allowed to skip?
No, nobody said they were allowed to skip yet, but that the accessibility world and the WCAG world were discussing whether to allow that because people really want it. And I just wondered if you'd heard anything, any news of whether that was going forward or.
I have not. I'm gonna look into it now, honestly, Catherine, because I would still fail it as of today. If somebody goes from a 2 to a 4, I would fail it. So yeah, that's actually news to me, Catherine. I'll look into it. Thank you so much.
Because as of right now, you still have to go in the proper order, right?
Yes, correct. Correct.
So you can obviously go backwards, like from an H5 to an H2 when you end a section, but you can't skip going downwards.
You are correct.
Can I ask a question about that? Cynthia here, sorry. Because sometimes I see the preference that, you don't want to keep using huge fonts, and if it's a small thing, you want to go to a 4 or a 5. That could be fixed just by readjusting your cascading style sheets and just making sure that you have appropriate font sizes in your cascading style sheet.
Absolutely. So this is something that is one of the things we talk about in the technical class, where you are using an H2 but making it look visually like an H4. That is a-okay, as long as semantically.
Yes, the sneaky trick.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a code snippet for that sneaky trick in your whiteboard? Because I'm on your whiteboard page now.
For the headers?
Well, exactly, because you have to follow the logical reading order, but it can be very frustrating if you have an incredibly long title or it's something like this and it's in this huge font. And so I was told that there was a way where you could sort of do inline coding where you force the font change in the line coding, but you're still respecting your H1, H2s, and H3s.
Cynthia, who you're working for?
Canadian Transportation Agency.
Are you using the wet template?
We are, and that's why I keep asking about wet, because when you inherit the Government of Canada ones, you can't change your style sheets. And we're actually thinking of changing our style sheets because this is a common frustration, so that we can perhaps.
It's in the wet template. You can do it in the wet template. Okay.
Oh, you can do inline coding in the wet templates. Okay.
So this is it. If you take a look at my screen right now, you can see the code,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So I have an H2 right here. Yeah, Rob has it. Rob is in the chat there. That is correct. I would just go class equals H4. And visually, this is now looking like an H4. However, it's still semantically an H2.
Great. So web semantically and for screen reader, the logical order would appear, but for the visual e-reader, we can change it to an H4 in terms of appearance, but the screen readers and the reflows are going to pick it up for the DOM.
Absolutely.
Catherine, does that answer your question?
That completely answers my question. Thank you.
That
Awesome.
solves a major issue on our end.
Good. I'm glad I could help. Rob, good job knowing the answer as well.
I'm just going to take a screenshot. I don't think that's violating your copyright thing of just that little code snippet. Perfect.
That's
Yeah, I
Thank
took a
you.
picture of it with my phone too.
Oh, thanks, Mike, for another great class.
Thank you, Cynthia. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Especially for that last bit. That saved my day.
Perfect. I hope all of you are doing really good up there. Hey, it's not always easy. I have 2 kids, so it's a lot of kids 24/7. I'll tell you that. Teachers don't get paid enough.
They definitely don't.
Well, and on a Good Friday, I was quite surprised that the class was offered so on this particular day. So I'll let you maybe get ready for the Easter egg hunt. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Fanny. You as well. Rob, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was definitely not a successful video, though. Very little amount of views. But I appreciate that you appreciated it. Thank you so much. Oh, you bought more Alexas? Echo Show 8. Yeah, I do love it, actually. And I got it on sale, so I was pretty happy with that. Peter, till next time. Min, thank you so much. Take care as well. Did you buy more than just the Echo Show, Rob, or that's your last one here? You bought 2. Wow. Okay, I want one for my bathroom upstairs, but keep in mind if you're going to do that, the shower steam broke my Echo Spot. So the Echo Spot has a little, oh yeah, I can unmute you, eh? What am I doing? It's a lot easier that way. I only get a notification if you raise your hand. There we go. You are unmuted, Rob. You have to unmute yourself as well, I think.
Okay, it works. Hey, Mike. Yeah. Yeah. Recently, I bought some of those Echo Flex, and I have one in the bathroom. I wonder if that might wreck itself.
Flex, Echo Flex. How did
Yeah,
I
it's
not
this
hear?
little tiny thing. It was like $20
Oh,
only.
yes. It's lower down, right? So if you, I guess you might have put it lower down. I don't know. In the bathroom, it could go either way. It could go in the middle. But yeah, I have my Echo Spot in the middle of the. It's actually on top of the toilet, and it's
Just the
it's
humidity.
still working. However, the screen blinks constantly. It's constantly blinking. So
Oh,
that this doesn't have a screen, so it might be okay. They're pretty cheap too, right?
yeah. Like they had that, deal where if you buy 2, you get like $10 off or something.
There you go. There it is. Flex 2-pack.
Yeah.
Has it worked well?
Yeah, it works good. Like obviously the audio is not very good because tiny speaker, but like, if
Yeah.
I'm just listening to the news or whatever, like the COVID updates and
Okay, you use it for that.
yeah, like I listen to CBC Radio 1 Ottawa all the time.
Yeah. My buddy bought one for his upstairs hallway or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and they come with these attachments, which I haven't bought yet. I'm waiting for them to go on sale, like motion sensor and like a nightlight.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah.
I do like that. Yeah.
And we're expecting a baby like in September, so that's why I bought the Echo
Nice.
Show 8, because it could be kind of like a baby monitor.
Oh, I use it all the time. 100% for sure.
Oh,
Super useful for that, by the way. Congrats, by the way. Your
Thank
first
you.
one.
Yeah.
Nice. You know if it's
And
a boy
oh yeah, it's a boy.
or boy. I hear they move a lot more than girls, so have fun with that.
And it's funny because I had some issues like with Alexa. I couldn't enable communication, and it was like driving me crazy. This was before I ordered these things, and then I realized that in the Alexa app, like I just had to log out and log back in, and then everything just worked perfectly. So if you do make like a future video or something, you can maybe mention that to people who are struggling.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, it's like for some reason I was like trying everything on the Alexa app, and it was just giving me like errors, and Alexa telling me, oh, you have to register in the communication thing. So misleading. And then finally I found a post somewhere where the guy just said, oh, you just have to log out and log back in.
There you go.
And then oh yeah, your latest video I watched, so you got the on the Tesla, the you could watch your Sentry clips right away.
Yeah, it's so useful, and I was surprised how well it works. I was kind of expecting the first version to be kind of buggy and like twitchy, but it works really well.
Which version of your like hardware is it? Because I keep track of mine. I think I'm on version 2020.8.3.
.8. Oh, why are you so far back?
Oh, I don't know. You're on .8?
No, 12.5.
Oh, wow.
2020.
Did you enable the advanced in your like updates or whatever?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe that's why. Oh, okay.
That's probably why. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing I did. I bought the car. I put it on the advanced for sure.
So you get like bleeding edge stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't know it would fall yours back so much. Here's a question for you, because I actually don't really, unless I'm like on Facebook Tesla group. I don't know many Tesla owners, but you use Spotify in yours?
I just used the built-in thing that came with it. Like I think at the time when I bought it, we got the what's the name of it? They don't call it Spotify. They call it
Yeah, it's the one that's the built-in one. I keep forgetting the name as well.
yeah,
But I know
that's the only one I use. Yeah.
that one works well. The Spotify, I constantly need to go to that one that we're talking about right now, and then back to Spotify for it to work correctly. It like
Oh.
it
Do you have like
repeats
Spotify Premium?
Yeah, I have a premium version of Spotify, and I'm a big. I've always been a big Spotify user, so I was really happy when they came out with it. But they really need to fix it. Like it's a annoying bug where it like just loops the same song over and over and over again, even though
Oh,
I
okay.
don't want it to. Like I have the loop off, the playlist on, but it keeps repeating the same song. Kind of annoying.
Yeah. And
But
then one other thing I wanted to let you know is you had this one course last week. I forget the name, but anyway, I was in my car at the time and the browser worked. Like I was able to see your course through the browser.
no way, really?
Yeah,
Was that in the morning or afternoon?
it was morning. I think it was 11 a.m. till something.
Yeah, so that was the editing videos on your phone, right?
Yes, that one.
Correct.
So yeah, like you know how there's kind of a primitive browser that doesn't really work sometimes, like the modern ones, but that actually worked. I don't think it was what you're using today. It was that other thing.
Today I'm using GoToWebinar, and last time it was GoToMeeting. So on smaller courses, we use GoToMeeting, but today we're expecting 20 students, so we wanted to allow for 20 students, so we use GoToWebinar instead.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted to let you know that, just in case like you're wondering.
Good to know, though. You can take the course while in your car.
Yeah, but once I started driving, like it switched.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't feel bad about that user logging off at one point. It was you.
Oh, that was me. Yeah.
Just joking. Well, Rob, you have a wonderful weekend, and really appreciate the support. Talking about the YouTube videos means a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more people, like my friends, to subscribe and stuff, because I want you to hit that 1,000 soon.
Yeah, 200 and no, 183 away or something.
It's too bad you didn't really mention it today, because I'm sure a lot of these people might have subscribed too.
It's on the little slide before, but I try not to push it too much during. If it comes up, I talk about it, you know.
Yeah, but I don't know, just during your intro, you could just quickly mention it, like don't dwell on it too much, and I'm sure people will just check it out and subscribe, right? So, because I did notice it on there.
I might do that, especially for the free courses, right? My boss
Yeah,
did give up on the slides though. Like he's the one that wanted to use specific slides. So it is on there, but I guess it's in the paragraph. Nobody actually reads paragraphs nowadays, right?
Yeah, like you could just quickly, mention it, and then people will just be like curious, maybe.
Go explore.
Oh, and then the one thing I commented on one of your videos about when you installed your power in your garage.
Oh yeah, you did?
Yeah, because I don't know, like behind the wall, did you use just a tiny metal thing, like instead of the huge one, like that would be, I don't know, is it 6 by 6 inches or 5 by 5 inches?
I'd have to go back and check. It's been a while. It's like a year ago almost.
Yeah, because I don't know, like there's this user group, like a Tesla user group. I'm not sure if you're part of that. It's like a website.
Oh, Tesla owners online.
I'm not sure if that's the name. I haven't been on it since, when I bought it back in 2018. Like, and a lot of people were talking about like installing their own electrical and all that. And then I had a bunch of questions, and some guy was helping me. I got like a PDF of like the electrical code and all this.
Oh yeah,
And
from Tesla.
yeah, so I ended up installing my own thing too, but I didn't put it in the wall. But I think it might be okay depending on your cable, right? It's just that I think the actual electrical box has to be accessible, like say you needed to open it up. But I think in your case, it's kind of like behind the drywall.
It is, yeah.
Did you get like an electrical inspection? Like I didn't.
He came when the wall was open, when everything was open.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he made sure that the wiring is all good, and then he said he was gonna come back after it was all done. And I haven't called him back to come back since the wall was closed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. Like, one thing that surprised me was in my garage, I was just gonna run it along the drywall in the garage, and I was gonna, use that. They're like these gray pipes, plastic pipes, conduit, I think it's called.
Yes.
But this guy there, who's kind of a electrical expert on that forum, he basically said if I want to do that, I have to strip the sheathing and just run the bare wires, like from the thick cable, like, because I was going to run just the big cable within the conduit.
Yeah. Why would that be an issue? I don't get it.
Because apparently it would like overheat or something.
Really?
So yeah, and that totally surprised me. But I thought it would just give it more protection, right? To have it like the cable within a cable.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I ended up not getting the conduit, and I just have like the bare cable along the wall.
And it's been working really well.
Yeah.
I guess you charge around 50 kilometers an hour, right?
Actually, I only installed a 30 amp because I had from my dryer installation, I had like a bunch of spare orange like 30 amp wire.
Okay.
And so instead of paying like 125 bucks for that thicker wire, I just use my leftover cable, and like 30 amps is fine. I only charge it 24 because you can only charge it 80%, right?
Oh, you charge to 80? I always go to 90.
I mean, like like say if your circuit is rated for 30 amps, which is mine, then I can only charge 80% of that, which is 24.
Yes. Correct.
And your circuit is 50 or?
I guess so. I have a 50 amp in there. So, but I don't. No, I don't. I'd have to go check.
Because then your max would be like 40 amp charging like inside the Tesla, like you know where it shows how many amps it's charging at.
I'd have to go check.
Yeah, just make sure you don't go over 40, because if you go if you try to charge at 50 on a 50 amp circuit, then it could overheat.
My Tesla doesn't go higher than 32. So yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have a standard range plus. Doesn't go higher than 32.
Oh, okay. Mine is I think 48 is the max.
Is it 48? Now you got me wondering. I'm gonna have to go check. For some reason, I thought, yeah, I look at the I know everybody looks at the how much juice is going in the car. I always look at the kilometers instead, how fast it's charging kilometers. That's what I care about.
True.
But yeah, I don't have any issues whatsoever though. Like, right, I wake up in the morning and my car's fully charged. And right now, my car's always fully charged. Haven't gone out much.
Yeah, me too. I actually called my insurance yesterday, and because I read, you're supposed to, like, insurance companies are kind of like lowering the rates or something because nobody's driving, and I got like a $4 discount for the rest of my term.
Watch out! Oh, because you changed it from essentials to casual.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one my wife did. She works for an insurance company, so she's the one that kind of did it, and I don't need to. I didn't even know about it, but she's like, "Yeah, you're a casual driver." I'm like, "If that."
I know. I should probably just like totally get rid of it and just walk everywhere, like to get groceries. But there's no fun in that.
I went to one store since all of this started. One. I'm like
really?
paranoid.
How do you guys get groceries?
We get it delivered to our door.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with Instacart, so they come and deliver the food to my door. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
My wife has been out a few more times. I think she's been out like 3 times since like in the last 3 weeks. But yeah, I've only went to one store, and it wasn't a grocery store. It was like a corner store kind of thing.
Yeah, it keeps getting worse and worse. Like, because you haven't gone out, you haven't seen, but gradually it's just getting like more pain in the ass to go grocery shopping, because now you have to like line up outside, 6 feet apart, and then when you get inside, you think you're all good, and then you have to line up again inside. Like for example, there's this one store called No Frills.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like the lineup's all the way to the back of the store.
Why don't you do the online pickup then? Like you order it online and then you pick it up. Literally just drive. They put it in your car and then you leave.
Yeah, I'll have to try that out. I know they were pushing that before this whole thing happened.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about Instacart, which is like what I've been using it for like a year, and nobody really used it. So like I would order food before all this happened, and it would be delivered in like less than 2 hours at my door.
Oh,
and
wow.
now it's taking like 4 or 5 days before they deliver it. It's like because everyone has jumped on it, right?
So do they actually have to have someone that's working from them? They have to now line up at No Frills and do your groceries, and then like, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Oh my God, it's like a shopping assistant.
Yeah, it's somebody else that's doing your groceries, and then they deliver it to your door. It's kind of like, think of Uber for your groceries.
Is it expensive? Because I could just imagine like you got maybe like half an hour wait to get in the store, then you have to actually do the shopping, then you have another half an hour wait to get out.
It's again, $80 was the price back in the summer for the year. So $80 a year.
Oh wow.
As long
I'm
as
sure
you
it's higher now.
Yeah, as long as your groceries is more than $30, you can do it as often as you want. And again, this is a different. Right now, it's different, obviously, because let's be honest, it's a mess out there. So it is taking a lot longer. Yeah, we've been using it forever, and I would never go back to not having it. It's just so convenient. I know
Oh,
some people find it relaxing to go grocery shopping. I'm not one of those people. I've always hated it, so I jumped on this and love it.
I used to find it relaxing, but now it's a pain in the ass, like with the lineups and waiting.
Yeah, that's if also I found myself buying things I didn't need a lot when I was grocery shopping by myself, so a lot less junk food in the house.
Okay.
It's like, oh, peanuts are there. Oh, chocolate's there. You just kind of grab it and put it in the cart. But when you're doing it online on your phone, you're more searching for specific things, not browsing. But yeah,
And do you
anyways,
find
like I said, but definitely love it on my end.
they like say you're getting like veggies and fruits, like they take the time to pick out like nice apples, or do they bring like ones that are all bruised and stuff?
So I'd say 80% of the time I'm really, really satisfied. 10% I'm okay, it's fine. And then, another 10% is not so great. But they are pretty good at refunding you if that does happen, kind of thing. So
Okay.
one guy like squished the bread, like you put the bread at the bottom of the bag and it was like completely flat. And you just say in the app and they refund you that money for that bread, kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I
Because I
actually
know.
like the
Sorry,
best
go ahead.
shop. I actually had the best shopper 2 days ago. So he was texting back and forth with me because there's like a little chat that you can talk with him. And he's like, hey, there's actually toilet paper here. Do you want any? And like, actually, I can't find this, but can you want me to get this? And I was like, wow, you are going beyond, what you need to do. I love it. He was fantastic.
Because I was thinking like when you hire like a contractor, say, to finish your basement or something like that, like they're gonna go to Home Depot and get a bunch of 2x4s. They're just gonna grab the first one they see, right? It could be like bent and garbage and all that, right? They don't care. Whereas like if you do it yourself, you're gonna go in, you're gonna like pick through the whole pile.
That is true. I do have notes though for my bread. It says the softer the better. So there's a little note in there.
Oh, okay.
And you're correct, but most of the time it's all good stuff. Like I've had really like I wouldn't go back to not having it, like I said. So that's kind of like the gist of it. Like, is it perfect? No, but most of the time I'm pretty satisfied with it.
And do they just kind of like leave it on your steps and for the social distancing, or?
Yeah, I had a note in my profile even before that. I said, put it on the steps. The camera will take over and look. What did I put? The camera will look over it or something like that. I've had that before. I kind of like the fact that they just drop it off and no awkward. Here you go. But now
Yeah.
that's kind of like mandatory. They don't allow you to greet the shopper at your door.
Yeah.
They drop it and wipe it all down with beautiful Lysol and then bring it. That's the part that takes a long time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Better safe than
Well,
sorry.
thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'll check that out. So Instacart.
Yeah, Instacart is the one I use, and then I know No Frills does online ordering, and then you just pick it up in your car.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, thanks, Mike. And so I'll keep I'll keep watching your YouTube channel, and I'll spread the word.
Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate it. Always a fun chat.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful holiday, or as good as it gets. And
Yeah.
congrats on the baby.
Thanks, Mike. Have a nice weekend too.
Enjoy your sleep while you can.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Okay, bye.